The episode opens with silence. Not peace, something more fragile. Jamie and Claire have finally found a quiet life at Fraser's Ridge. But that stillness doesn't last long. A letter with no name and no return address appears on their doorstep. 6 chilling words are scrawled in uneven ink. Asterisk, she's waiting for you. Claire? And just like that, everything begins to unravel. Claire's face drains of color as she reads it. She doesn't have to ask who she is. In the deepest corner of her heart, where grief still lives, she already knows. Faith, the baby they lost. The child Claire held for only a few moments before death claimed her. But how can that be? How can someone lost so long ago reach out now? Jamie tries to stay calm, to hold on to logic, but his heart is racing. Claire reads the note again and again, as if the words might change. But they don't. They never do. Jamie watches her crumble not physically, but emotionally. All the years they've survived war, separation, death, and still, this breaks her in ways he hasn't seen before. But he can't let her fall into that dark place alone. He takes the note, turning it in his rough hands, staring at the handwriting. There's something wrong about it. It's not just the message, it's the feeling. It wasn't sent to scare them. It was sent to warn them. They try to tell themselves it's a cruel joke. Maybe someone from their past, someone bitter, someone who wants to hurt them. But the doubt lingers, because the impossible has already happened too many times. Claire has crossed centuries. Jamie has faced death again and again. So who's to say that dead can't come back in some twisted way? The tension rises when they reach out to the one person who might know more, Francesca. In season 7, she made a strange reference to what was lost not being gone. It seemed poetic then. Now, it sounds like prophecy. Claire confronts her with the letter in hand, voice shaking, eyes desperate for truth. But Francesca doesn't answer, at least, not directly. She simply says, sometimes, love leaves a mark even time can't erase. And that's it. No explanation, no denial. Just that Claire's desperation begins to spill over. She digs into old journals, old letters, anything that might point toward a lie buried in the past. But Jamie warns her too much digging might only lead to more pain. Still, Claire won't stop. She can't. Because if there's even a chance, if there's any hope that Faith survived, then she has to follow it, even if it means tearing open wounds that never truly healed. Jamie, meanwhile, is not only fighting fear, but something worse, guilt. He remembers that night like it happened yesterday. The blood, the silence, the way Claire held their daughter, refusing to let go, and he wasn't there. He never held Faith, never got to say goodbye. That guilt has haunted him for years, but now it transforms into something else. Resolve. If someone is playing with them, they'll pay. But if this is real, if Faith somehow lived, he will not fail her again. That as night falls over the ridge, their home no longer feels safe. Shadows move to icily across the walls. Jamie stands guard, his sword never far, and Claire lies awake, clutching the letter as if it were a lifeline. The calm is gone. What remains is dread, and questions that won't be silenced. Who sent the letter? Why now? And what if Faith is alive but not the baby they lost, not the daughter they imagined, but someone else entirely? Changed, hidden, manipulated. Could someone have taken her, raised her under a different name, in a different world? The final moments of the episode strike like lightning. Another message arrives. Not a letter this time, but a piece of something far more personal. A child's silver bracelet. One Claire buried with Faith. Clean, untarnished. Impossible. The next morning, Jamie and Claire sit in silence. The silver bracelet between them on the table like a ghost neither of them can speak to. It gleams in the early light, untouched by time, as if it had never been buried. Claire's fingers shake as she picks it up, her breath shallow, her thoughts spinning. She remembers placing it in the tiny casket, her hands trembling, her soul breaking. She remembers the grave. She remembers the earth. So how is this possible? Who could have it? No, and why would they send it? Jamie doesn't speak, but his expression says everything. There's a threat here, one not yet named, but close, too close. And the Frasers have learned that when the past starts clawing, it's way back. Blood usually follows. Jamie makes the decision first. They can't stay. Not while someone is watching them, taunting them, pulling the strings from the shadows. They must leave Fraser's Ridge and go back to where it all began. Paris. Claire protests. The idea of returning to the city where she lost Faith terrifies her. But Jamie knows it's the only place that holds the kind of secrets they now have. To uncover, someone from those days knew something. Maybe even did something. And after all this time, that someone may have finally come back to finish what they started on the journey. The weight between Jamie and Claire only grows heavier. There's a silence between them that words can't fill. Every shared glance is filled with memories both beautiful and unbearable. Claire clutches the bracelet constantly, like it's the only proof she has that her heart isn't deceiving her. Jamie, meanwhile, is preparing for war. Not one with swords or muskets, but something colder. He knows someone is hunting them, using faith as bait. And if they want answers, they'll have to walk into the trap willingly. They arrive in France under the guise of anonymity, but they're not invisible for long. Whispers begin immediately. Old allies recognize them, and old enemies take notice. And soon, a name rises from the ashes of their past. Genevieve. Claire freezes the moment she hears it. The name had been buried in some far corner of her mind for years. A midwife who worked in the shadows. A woman with access to infants, hospitals, and secrets best left forgotten. Back then, Claire had only seen her once. A face in the hallway, but now, the same name appears on the letterhead of a private hospital, a place known for discreet adoptions during the war, a place where records vanish and children are given new names, new lives. Jamie and Claire pay the hospital a visit, disguised, cautious. The building is old, stone and shadow, but inside it's sterile to clean. Too quiet, Claire's hands tremble as she flips through a stack of records, each file dated and sealed. When she finally reaches a document from the same week Faith died, her heart nearly stops. A child listed as female, no name, no death certificate, no burial record, just a signature. Genevieve's and stamped at the bottom. Asterisk, transfer, confidential custody, asterisk, Claire can't breathe. The lines on the page blur. She reads them over and over, trying to find a mistake, a lie, something. But the paper doesn't lie. It speaks of a baby taken, not buried. A child given away, hidden. Her daughter. Jamie stares at her, torn between fury and heartbreak. Someone stole Faith, lied to them, let them mourn while she lived. Who would do that and why? Was it to protect her? Or was it something darker, something they're only just beginning to uncover? They leave the hospital in silence, but they're not alone. In the reflection of a shop window, Jamie catches a cloaked, watching. When he turns, the figure is gone. But the message is clear. They are being followed. Back at their lodging, the danger becomes undeniable. A note is slid under their door, not typed, handwritten. The same script as before. This time, it says, asterisk, you're not ready for the truth. And attached to it is a photograph. Faded, black and white. A young girl, maybe 13. Curly hair, wide eyes. Familiar, too familiar. Claire gasps. Her hand covers her mouth. Jamie leans in, his heart in his throat. Because the face staring back at them could be hers. Faith's older, alive, but there's no joy in this discovery. Only fear. Because if Faith is alive, she may not know who they are. Worse, she may have been told not to remember them. Raised by someone who wanted to erase the Frasers from her life entirely, and just when Jamie thinks they've reached the limit of shock, a name on the back of the photo sends a new chill down his spine. Not Faith, not Fraser. The photo burns in Claire's hand like it carries fire. Isabel Murtagh, she says the name aloud, over and over, hoping it will lose its power, but it doesn't. It's like a dagger carved into their lives, forged from lies and secrets. Jamie stares at it for a long time before he speaks. She looks like you, he says quietly. The grief in his voice so raw it feels like a wound torn open all over again. Claire nods, but her mind is already spinning. Who is raising her? Where is she now? And what has this girl, their daughter, been told about who she is? The name Murtagh hits Jamie like a second blow. Could it be a coincidence? Or something far worse? His godfather dead for years, his name now being used as a weapon, tied to a child who should have never left their arms. The betrayal stings deeper than anything he's felt since colliding. Someone has taken everything sacred from them there. Daughter, her name, her identity turned it into something twisted. There's no denying it now. This isn't just about finding Faith. This is about exposing the people who tore their family apart and punishing them. They begin their search with the only real clue they have, the name Isabel Murtagh and the hidden network Genevieve Beauchamp once ran. Claire dives deep into the underground world of post-war adoptions and vanished children. With every name she uncovers, every altered birth record, the horror grows. Children disappeared. Mothers told their babies died when they hadn't. Hospitals paid to falsify deaths. And the trail? It all leads back to one central figure. Not just Genevieve, but a man named Edward Hansla, a name Jamie remembers from Paris, a British diplomat turned arms dealer with a reputation for cruelty and secrets bought with blood. And he was there at the hospital the day Faith died. The realization is chilling. Faith wasn't stolen at random. She was chosen. And now Hansley's name surfaces again. Not in the public eye, but whispered behind closed doors. He's still alive, still in power, and still hiding something. Jamie's jaw tightens. He knows what must be done. Hans must be found and forced to confess. Claire agrees, but she's scared. Not of what they'll uncover, but of what it might mean for the girl in the photograph. If Faith Isabel has been raised under Hansley's influence, what kind of world has she lived in? What kind of person has she become? They track Hansley to Geneva. He lives in luxury, protected by political immunity and layers of guards. But Jamie doesn't care. The moment he lays eyes on the man, rage floods him. This is the person who robbed them of a lifetime. He demands answers, but Hansley doesn't flinch. Instead, he smiles a cruel, knowing smile and says, "You were never meant to find her. You should have let the dead stay buried." Claire steps forward, voice trembling but steady. She's not dead, and we're not leaving without the truth. Hansley hesitates. Then, with a bitterness that masks fear, he drops a name neither of them expect. Lord John Grey. Jamie's blood runs cold. Hansley claims Lord John was involved not in the theft, but in the cover-up. He knew. He helped hide the girl's existence to protect someone. Ask your friend, Hansley sneers, if you can still call him that. The betrayal cuts deeper than the knife Jamie once took for John. Could it be true? Could Lord John have kept this secret all these years? Claire wants to believe it's a lie, a manipulation. But the signs, the tension, the unspoken things, the warnings, they all start to make sense. That night, Jamie doesn't sleep. He sits by the fire, staring at the photo of Isabel, his daughter. The curve of her chin, the set of her eyes, his blood in her face. But behind those eyes is a life he's never known. A childhood without him, a girl raised in shadows. The next morning, Claire finds him already saddled and ready. He's going to London. To confront John. When they find him, Lord John is quiet. Distant, he doesn't deny it. He only says, "I did what I had to do." Jamie explodes. The betrayal pours out of him like thunder. Years of friendship, loyalty, trust all broken with a single truth. Claire tries to keep Jamie from losing control, but it's no use. Jamie's heartbreak is too great. He demands to know where Faith is. Lord John lowers his gaze. "She's not the girl you remember," he says softly. "She was raised to hate you." And with those words, everything shifts again. Because finding Faith won't be the end. It will be the beginning of a war. They never imagined a war not just to reach her but to save her. Because if Faith has been raised to believe they're the enemy, then bringing her home might destroy her. Everything they've feared, everything they've hoped, it all leads to this. Jamie and Claire now face the most agonizing truth of all. Faith is alive, but she doesn't know them, where she's been taught to fear them. Lord John's confession confirms their nightmare. He had helped hide Faith to protect her, or so he believed. He had been manipulated too, perhaps blinded by duty or love or something darker. But in doing so, he helped sever a bond that should have never been broken. Jamie looks at him with nothing but fury. For years, they'd stood side by side in battles, through secrets, death, and war. And now this. The betrayal doesn't just cut, it bleeds. Claire, trembling but composed, asks only one question. Asterisk, where is she now? Asterisk, Lord John hesitates. He knows saying the next words will change everything. Finally, he tells them Faith, or Isabel, has been taken to a private estate in the Scottish Highlands. A place heavily guarded, isolated, under the control of Hans. She's there not just to be hidden, but to be used. She's being groomed for something political, something dangerous, perhaps even as a pawn to manipulate Jamie himself. The daughter of a Highland rebel, raised to serve those who seek to destroy everything her parents ever fought for. Jamie's hands clench. The enemy has turned their child into a weapon. And now, he must get her back, even if it means going to war one last time. They travel north under cover of night, guided by fear and fire. Every mile closer to her feels like walking through a storm of ghosts. Claire remembers the smell of the hospital in Paris, the weight of Faith's tiny body, the moment her world shattered. Jamie remembers nothing. That's what haunts him most. He never got to say goodbye. And now, he's not sure he'll ever get to say hello. But there is no turning back. They will fight whatever monsters lie ahead, because nothing matters more than bringing their daughter home. N. When they reach the outskirts of the estate, the scope of the threat becomes clear. Guards patrol the grounds. Watchtowers rise above thick forests. Jamie studies it all with a soldier's eyes. He's done this before. Raids, ambushes, rescue, missions. But this is different, because this time, it's personal. Claire insists on going with him. She's my daughter too, she says, voice steel, and Jamie doesn't argue. They will face this together, as they always have. They sneak onto the estate under the cover of darkness, past the guards, into the heart of the house. There, in a grand room adorned with books and velvet curtains, sits a girl. She's reading, alone, her back to them. Claire gasps. Jamie's heart stops. The photo hadn't lied. She looks older, nautiler, stronger, but it's her. There's no doubt. The moment Claire whispers faith, the girl looks up. Her face shifts from confusion to shock to fear. She backs away. Who are you? She asks. Her voice is guarded, sharp. She's been taught not to trust strangers. Claire steps forward, tears in her eyes, her voice breaking. I'm your mother. But Faith doesn't believe her. She lashes out, accusing them of lies, of manipulation. She's been told her parents are dead, that the people searching for her are dangerous traitors. Jamie tries to speak, but the pain in her eyes is unbearable. She doesn't know him. Not yet. Not really. And still, she is Jimin the way she stands. In the fire in her voice, Claire reaches for her, but Faith recoils, whispering, They said you'd try this. They said you'd lie. That's when the doors burst open. Guards Hansley's men armed, shouting. Jamie steps in front of Claire. Sword drawn, eyes blazing. The fight begins fast, brutal, desperate. Claire grabs Faith's hand. The girl resists at first, but then hesitates. Something shifts, a flicker of memory, a connection she doesn't understand. Claire pulls her toward the exit. Jamie fights like a man possessed, fury and love burning through every strike. Blood spills, pain follows, but they survive. They escape. In the forest beyond, under the stars, they collapse. Faith Isabel sits beside Claire, trembling. She doesn't speak, but she doesn't run. That's enough for now. Jamie watches. Them, broken but alive. She doesn't know us, he whispers. Claire wipes her tears. Then we'll show her, one day at a time. But the danger isn't over. Hansla is still alive. And the forces that raised Faith won't give up. So isolally, she is still their target. Still their pawn. Now, Jamie and Claire must not only protect her, but teach her the truth, who she is, where she comes from, and why love is more powerful than the lies that tried to destroy them. Faith's return was never going to be simple, but she is home. And this time, they will never let her go. This is only the beginning. The storm is far from over. But for the first time in years, the Frasers stand together with their daughter beside them,